Welcome back. I'm Brandon, the HBAR Bull, once again joined by Zepsi. We both do some contract work for the HBAR Foundation, but we don't do these weekly updates in any official capacity. We're just coming to you personally to give you the latest in the Hedera ecosystem. Welcome, Zep.
How's it going, Brandon?
It's going good. We have so much to cover, but as always, none of this is financial advice. Use it for entertainment or educational purposes only. So, Zep, I was actually having trouble figuring out what we were going to lead off with today. I wasn't sure if we should do Davos. I had this interview with the CEO from Xeni, and after hearing the potential impact that could have on Hedera, I was thinking about leading off with that, but we did get a Hedera governing council member. We were thinking that that was possible with everything that was going on in Davos, and that's exactly what we got. We got Hatachi US joining the Hedera Council. Now, with Hatachi, it's the opposite of Google, where Google is the parent company and the Hedera governing council member, but the subsidiary, Google Cloud, is the most involved with the network. In the case of Hatachi, the subsidiary Hatachi US is the official Hedera council member, but I don't think there's a big distinction in the two ways of doing it. Here are some general facts around the Hitachi parent. Hitachi is a Japanese conglomerate that is over 100 years old. They create digital systems, power and renewable energy solutions, railway systems, healthcare products, and even financial and IoT systems. They have nearly 400,000 employees, and just last year they had over $80 billion in revenue. And I got a quote from Rob. Of course, Rob is the Hedera Governing Council representative from Australian Payments Plus. He said, Hitachi are an impressive addition to the Hedera Governing Council and will enhance Hedera's leadership in enterprise DLT and real-world industrial scale use cases. With an impressive sustainability and ESG focus, Hitachi are extremely experienced in the application of innovative technologies across a wide range of sectors, from semiconductor production through supply chain logistics and machine learning to physical infrastructure and smart cities. I'm looking forward to working with the Hitachi team on the council, where they bring deep and valuable expertise, and supporting them through the Corporate Utilization Committee, or CorpCom, as they build their solutions on Hedera's highly scalable and secure technology. Their vice president in charge of the Big Data Analytics Solution Lab said, Hitachi sees real-world potential in distributed ledger technology solutions built on Hedera. Given the network's highly scalable and secure technology and strong commitment to sustainability, Hedera addresses emerging needs in supply chain resiliency, clean energy, IT/OT, and the semiconductor industries, for example. Its unique DLT provides the single truth and tokenization mechanisms for distributed workflows that are needed to address these challenges. So, Zeb, did you have any insights on the addition of Hitachi US?
Yeah, so Hedera opened by saying that, they're going to be doing these proof of concepts, particularly in supply chain and, sort of the sustainability side around that. And we've seen this now with Avery Dennison, a Fortune 500. We've seen this with Kia and Hyundai, who's the biggest car manufacturers in South Korea. And now we're seeing it with Hitachi. And so I think that is a clear indication that Hedera has really cornered this OG Web3 use case, supply chain, but also add an additional layer of functionality to that, which is the carbon emission tracking. There is, by mainnet activity and the institutions that are behind us supporting this use case, no better distributed ledger to facilitate this sort of end goal than Hedera. And we've seen how much TPS that is from Atma. We know that Kia and Hyundai are going to ramp up as they develop their use case. And so this is just again and again, I think, a use case that we have this clear blueprint for, that other institutions can come in, copy and paste it to their own sort of needs, do their proof of concepts, then their pilots, and then hit mainnet. So very, very excited about that one. But beyond that, the official Twitter of Hitachi US also came out with their support for Hedera and joining the council. And they actually said something different. They said, we're excited to unlock numerous industrial possibilities through the Hedera platform. With asset tokenization and fractional ownership capabilities, Hitachi's social innovation business will enable unconventional engagement models. So we know that they're going in with the pilots in supply chain sustainability, but already they're indicating that other use cases there are that Hedera can facilitate, that they're interested in pursuing. So I have no doubt that both with their immediate activity on Twitter, their immediate bullishness on Hedera, that Hitachi are going to be a really, really great and valuable addition to the council. So yeah, excited for what they bring over the coming years.
Well, Zeb, I think you're hitting a key point there. As we cross this 30 council member milestone from where we were in 2018, we have far exceeded all of our expectations on who we would have on the Hedera Governing Council. But now it's more about what are they going to do. And it's clear that Hitachi US has some big plans. We also, one of the original Hedera Governing Council members, Deutsche Telekom, there's been some confusion because Deutsche Telekom's doing a lot of different things in the DLT space of, where is Hedera actually being utilized? And we've already had that interview with Fligs. That's a big thing that's being done by Deutsche Telekom and T-Mobile. But it was good to see there was the division of Deutsche Telekom that actually works directly with Hedera came out and also pledged their support to Hedera and kind of clearing up some misconceptions. So it was good to see this newest and one of the oldest Hedera Governing Council members coming out in support over this past week. All right, so the next thing I want to get into, of course, we've talked about it a lot over the past week, is Davos. Hedera has, in the words of Max Walker Williams, he's one of our builders, he's one of our educators in the space, and he's also covering things from Davos. In his words, he said that Hedera has absolutely knocked it out of the park. Their main presence is at one of the biggest hotels there, the Belvedere Hotel, and he walks us through exactly how Hedera has things set up. So check it out.
Morning everyone. So I said I'd give you a tour of Hedera in the Belvedere Hotel. So I'm going to do that for you right now. This is the entrance. You come in, VIP service, and the first thing you're greeted by are these lovely flowers, and then Hedera banner to the right, Hedera banner to the left, pretty decent, straight into the Wall Street Journal. Then you turn right. So this is the way to the bar. So this is really, really busy. And look at this. A lot of people taking photos at the Hedera selfie wall, photo wall. And then you've got Max's corner. So you can see he's got the camera equipment set up there. It's a really snug corner. So we've had to be quite artistic with the cameras, getting them close enough so they're not, people aren't tripping over them, but far enough away that we can actually get people in the shot. There's Big Boss. Hedera, the public blockchain for business. So that's cool. And then you've got these monitors. These are everywhere. I'm going to show you something they've done that's very clever in a second. So there's the agenda. Then it's got the governing council members and different speakers. And then it goes back around again to the energy consumption. Then you carry on walking. Hello, future. Welcome to the Hedera HBAR. Very clever. This is a bar, so you've got Hedera again. Welcome to the Hedera bar. And then you've got the Hedera bar. Governing council members. There's Eric. That's Eric there. He's the revenue officer for Swirls Labs. That's Monique to my left. Governing council member. And then down the bottom there, can you see those doors right at the bottom? That's where the private dinners and luncheons are. Now I'm going to show you what they did, which I really like. So if we come just from the entrance to the Hedera section, and we walk across the lobby, there's the entrance where you come in. Across the walkway here is the Coinbase Institute. We've got a relatively small little room, and that's Coinbase through there. You can see they've got more than 52 million Americans in crypto. Crypto transfers on average are 96 pence cheaper than other transfers, more than 100,000 merchants, etc. Now, what I found out is, look at this, and this is what Hedera have done, which is very, very clever. Shout out to Claudio. If you come down this corridor, Coinbase have got a private meeting room. Those are the doors to the Coinbase private meeting room, and look at what's directly opposite. How cool is that? So we've got the screens directly opposite the entrance and exit for the Coinbase private meeting rooms.
So that's an absolutely amazing setup we had there. But Max also got an interview, not just with Lehman, which you would almost expect, but also Brad Garlinghouse of XRP. So this is the second time we've seen that Lehman has acted as somebody that's bringing different teams together just over the past week and a half or 2 weeks. So we saw, of course, with DREC, Algorand, and now we're seeing XRP kind of coming under that umbrella of networks that are working together to move this entire industry forward. But there's a lot of other stuff going on. Zep, can you kind of give us some coverage of other stuff that you were seeing come out of Davos this past week?
Yeah, I mean, alongside Brad Garlinghouse, or Garlinghouse rather, who is notoriously hard to pin down for an interview for many good reasons, seeing them together is massive, like you just mentioned, for that, potential DREC alliance, and even more by the sounds of teased there. But he was also on a panel with, Ethereum, with Solana, with Casper and ICP, leading figures from each founders, presidents, co-founders, so on, which are all also eligible figures for this DREC alliance. And so to me, if Lehman is positioned as the man that founded DREC, as he rightly should be, this could be one of the biggest marketing opportunities I've ever seen for Hedera, really. But alongside that, Lehman was in conversation with Brian Schmidt, Nobel Prize winner, the man that won his Nobel Prize for proving that the universe is expanding at an ever-increasing rate. That's big brain activity right there. And what I loved about this is having Lehman in conversation with him is obviously shows that these two, a lot of respect between the two parties. But it also means that a figure like Brian can meet another sort of fellow genius like Lehman, mathematical genius, and hear from Lehman the benefits of something like DLT or Web3, when usually these people who aren't all in Web3, as I understand, will only get the negative parts of the news. So I think just having him, Brian, meet Lehman really could do a lot for that kind of credibility for an industry, and in particular Hedera. And having a figure like Brian Schmidt, I'm so aware of Hedera and having his own context and knowing, the mathematical proof of the hash graph would be very interesting for him. But alongside that, alongside Brad, alongside, the leading networks, alongside Brian Schmidt, Nobel Prize winner, we saw the Hash Graph Association firing, on all cylinders, as you say, this week at Davos. So first off, we saw that Vyana, who are the India's largest trade finance platform, come out at WEF on an official WEF panel and say that they're building a digital asset platform on Hedera, not just within India, where they're huge, but also for their clients worldwide, including in, the APAC region, the Asia Pacific. And so to pull up some statistics for Vyana, already they've facilitated over $14 billion of financing. They're in over 600 cities, over 20 countries. They spread across 25 different industries and have 20 plus different financiers. So this is, a massive conglomerate within India. India is one of the most rapid growing tech countries in the world. And so to see that the Hashgraph Association got another massive industry figure into the Hedera ecosystem is great. Now, alongside that, we've seen WiseKey a few times over the last year or so, but they came out again at WEF. They had their own panel, and they came out once more with a press release saying that they've partnered with the Hashgraph Association to enable legal and regulatory compliant tokenization of our assets and equity via Hedera. So this is kind of, the TokeOS, DLA Piper-esque use case that we know that the Hedera token service is best in class for facilitating. If they couldn't be doing any more than that, they also announced a new developer course for Hedera developers or Hedera curious developers in partnership with Swartz Labs. So this is a completely free course, and they've got 9 modules, as I believe. One is the introduction to Web3 and Hedera, the second, Hedera network architecture, then Hedera core concepts, Hedera developer fundamentals, local network setup, the Hedera consensus service, Hedera token service, a DApp workshop, the Hedera smart contract service, the JSON RPC relay native services, interoperability, and then final assessment. So they've got a 12 module course actually in partnership with Swartz Labs, with the core developer team, with the expertise, the BD development team of the Hashgraph Association, so that if they sniff out any particularly strong teams or developers, I'm sure they'll be brought into the ecosystem through one of the organizations. So a lot of great news there coming out from the Hashgraph Association, all at WEF24. And, again, really excited to see what comes from those.
Well, we can't be too surprised. It is the backyard, essentially, for the Hashgraph Association, that they have so much involvement here at Davos. But I do want to get back to some of the Hedera branding at Davos, at that Belvedere Hotel. There was actually a mistake that we loved to see. There was a Fortune 500, I guess, CEOs or leader meeting in the Belvedere Hotel, and something interesting happened that Max wanted to highlight. So let's check it out.
Guys, so something really interesting has happened. At the end of the corridor down here is the Fortune CEO event, right? But I'm going to show you something. Look at this. Right, so at the bottom of this corridor is the Fortune CEO event. And they've made a mistake. They think this is an interview section for that. So they've set up the cameras and they're interviewing all the Fortune 500 CEOs coming through. And the backdrop is Hedera, and they're all getting photos and doing interviews, and Hedera is everywhere.
Thank you. See you. I will be in the bunker. See you later. Let me off you. Sorry.
So again, Zeb, we are knocking things out of the park at Davos, but I am chomping at the bit to get to the next segment because the CEO from Xeni, it is a travel site, Sachin, gave me some information that absolutely blew my mind, and I think 2024 is going to be huge for them. So let's listen to what Sachin had to say. There are some insiders who are very excited about Xeni, and today we welcome back their CEO, Sachin, to delve into why. Sachin, welcome back.
Thank you very much, Brandon. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to share a lot of things with the team.
Well, when we're doing our analytics each week, we see Xbucks up there a fair amount of the time, so we want to figure out exactly what's going on. But to start off, Sachin, can you remind us of the business model for Xeni?
Absolutely. In a short version, think of us like Shopify for travel reselling front end, a shop where you can launch a travel booking engine with a one click. Fill out the form on Xeni.com and you launch your own travel booking engine under your own brand, your own domain. It's been extremely difficult. There are many barriers of entries to launch your own booking engine. The market is controlled by some of the big mega players. And if you're a small travel influencer, travel agent, if you're a corporate who would want to have an access to wholesale rates and have an ability to offer that to your community or within your employee pool, it's very difficult today. What Xeni has done is it has accomplished an amazing white labelable booking tech for people who want to resell the travel. That's what Xeni does.
Understood.
Yeah.
And this is going on right now, right? This is a functioning business. This isn't something that's you're looking forward to in the future.
No. We have clients from we have more than 250 clients, I would say, as subscribers. They are spanned in 54 countries. The demand is so high that we can't keep up. We have to continue to increase our infrastructure and we need to build more tools for them because people are loving it. And the best part of this entire tech is it's built on a Web3 technology. All of the data we capture, it is stored on a Hedera hash graph. So we create a single source of truth. So a lot of our inefficiencies in travel business has been handled by hash graph.
So let's delve into that a little bit.
Yeah.
So how exactly does Xeni leverage Hedera?
Absolutely. So think about let's say a good example would be you go on a booking.com or Expedia, right? So if you go on Expedia.com, for you like a hotel, you choose and you hit the checkout page, put your credit card, and it's done for you. The transaction is done as a user. But the money goes to Expedia. Expedia doesn't own that money. That inventory, they got it. There are middlemen. There are suppliers, inventory providers. Either they got that inventory from them or directly from hotel. So based on your booking cancellation, and if you are a travel agent, you're trying to resell, you're waiting on your commission, the money moves from one party to other. They invoice each other. And there is a lot of account reconciliation deficit. Second problem is where you basically think about it. You have a booking confirmation number and you go to hotel and you don't find it because not all the centralized system talking to each other. They don't have a record of it. And third is, most importantly, think about you book a flight on Expedia or any airline, and they say, hey, you cancel it or modify it. They cannot send your money back to you because there are so many counterparties in the middle. They'll say, hey, we'll give you credit. They can't even give you your money back. It's a massive problem. People fail to realize that. What Xeni has done, we have built a Xeni Pay, a payment settlement arm. So every booking, we capture it and we basically create a topic and send it across the multiple counterparties. So we use the tokenized system to track and settle the booking. But that also eliminates, I would say, account reconciliation problems, all of the three problems I mentioned to you. That's how we're leveraging it. And it's extremely effective. It's saving us a lot of time. In literally last 6 months, we have grown to almost more than 600%. Last year, 2023, we grew 600%. And customers from different world could use us. And we want this Web 2 plus Web 3 combination because we're in the cusp, in the middle of it. So we're using Web 3 and we also have a Web 2 UI UX, people which they don't understand. We build the bridge. We see that all of the consumer behavior can be changed if we offer them more convenience on the Web 3 side. So Web3 tooling is what we are focused in 2024.
So I want to touch on that growth in just a second, but first, the XBucks. Can you tell us about the token that you're using?
Absolutely. So XBucks is, think of like oil in the engine. Your engine won't function if it's an oil. So XBucks is a stable token of a system. Imagine you have made a $10,000 booking on any of those Xeni powered sites. So we have clients like BitPay Travel. We have clients like major corporates who are using, I don't want to name everybody, but some of them, a Web3 community knows is BitPay Travel. And there are people who wants to use Xeni's APIs and UI to build the tokenized assets too. So XBucks, every time a booking happens, let's say you spend $10,000, we generate 10,000 XBucks, and whoever the counterparties are, based on the booking condition, we allocate that tokens. Those tokens basically are promissory notes of all the counterparties that they will get paid when booking actually reach to a certain condition. For example, if it's a refundable booking, you have to just hit cancel and money goes back to your bank. Once it's a non-refundable booking, all these three parties can conveniently take their money out. They don't have to wait on anybody. They don't have to send us invoice. They have like a full, I would say, transparency of a transaction to the bone based on the commercial contracts we have with them.
This isn't just an incremental improvement. This is a huge leap forward. And to give everybody some context, XBucks has been transferred. It's one of the top tokens on the Hedera network, hundreds of thousands of times. It's been transferred hundreds of thousands of times over the past few months alone.
Absolutely.
So let's get down to it. What's the scale of the impact that Xeni could have on the Hedera network?
Oh, wow. So let's talk about that, right? It's how we are. So the biggest, for me, the way I look at the blockchain tech and as well as the entire blockchain community, we have gathered a lot of attention from the world, and maybe we have around 100 million plus wallets. They are active worldwide, not more than that. And everybody is using those wallets to trade the tokens. But it has not really started giving people more, I would say, utility of the blockchain ecosystem. So any user comes on Xeni, and user, I'm saying B2B2C because we are B2B, but any customers, users hop on Xeni and customer and any counterparty, we generate a wallet for them so that they become the part of the ecosystem. So that wallet is also having the XBucks attached to it. And that wallet is also keeping track of how many bookings that users have done, how many counterparties were involved. So recently, XBucks, we have to increase XBucks supply. We initially thought this is going to be slower growth. We ended up seeing pretty high growth. So we had to mint more XBucks, and it's now more than 10 million or something. And in ecosystem bookings, if you look at zenipay.com, where we have live data, and I might share real quickly if you don't mind. So ZeniPay has ecosystem bookings, more than $1 million worth of bookings have been tracked and settled within the ecosystem. And I will go back to your original question, which was like, how would it impact the entire Hedera community? The most important part of that question is, how many people are actively using the blockchain is the impact. That will increase the transaction. That will increase the earning to the network and sustainability. So, pardon my sustainability within the network. So, Xeni is aiming to onboard around anywhere between 50 to 70 million users to the ecosystem. So I'm saying we will turn the page completely for the blockchain industry.
And what's the time frame for that 50 to 70 million customers?
I would we have signed a major contract with the major companies. Like, I will wait to give you the timeline, but it's going to happen soon. I mean, they all not will be joining immediately, but it's going to be incremental user growth on the network. And this will be the active users, because as they come in, they shop travel. Every time they shop or travel, the network is being used. And we're also planning to launch a rewards token around it, which is a huge selling point for the networks. So once we have the rewards token live, it's going to be, you will see massive network activity.
And Sachin, who shoulders the cost of creating each one of those accounts? You know, that's 5 cents every time. Every time you transfer the tokens, it's going to be 1/10 of a cent. Who's shouldering that cost? Is that you or is that the customers?
It's us. We cannot have them, because they automatically they get this wallet assigned to them from us. So it's us. Think of, like, if you create a user account on a Gmail, you don't have to pay anything, at least not in the beginning. The way I'm earning from that customer is when you use the reward system, when you use the booking, we are massively earning from that. So if we go back to our business model question, it's like our business model is a subscription revenue who wants to resell the travel, but also we make the money, very small amount of money in the commissions on each transaction. So that's a valuable. The 5 cents is not a lot of money for us to bear that to get this customer onboarded.
Yeah, that makes sense. All right, so I know you touched on this a little bit, but what are the next milestones for Xeni? What can we look forward to in the future?
So, and this is our tech, JP Kridon will definitely share it with you soon in future podcasts. But the most important thing is we're bringing an amazing tokenized asset, a huge utility to the marketplace where people can use them for their personal travel, but also be able to trade, and very fast. If they have critical knowledge about how the demand and supply in travel would look like in future, Xeni will be bringing that product in either in Q1 or Q2 of this year. We're aiming, at least. That's going to be a game changer for the network as well.
Well, it does sound like Xeni is going to be a complete game changer, not just for the travel industry, but for Hedera as well. Sachin, thank you so much for swinging by and giving us the inside track.
Lovely. Thank you very much, Brandon. I'm happy to share more.
So Zeb, I can't say how excited I am about Xeni, and of course their stablecoin XBucks. I'm excited about that, but it sounds like they're going to have some additional tokens that they're going to be putting out there that should really get some attention on the Hedera network and usage of the Hedera network. Just to go back to the amount of revenue that could be generated by that 50 to 70 million additional accounts. Every single one of those accounts is 5 cents of revenue for the Hedera network, not to mention then it being used after that. So I'm really impressed with that. But there was another big piece of news that came out, and it was that the Hedera Governing Council has allocated nearly 5 billion additional HBAR to the different entities within the Hedera ecosystem. So we're talking about the Hashgraph Association, we're talking about the HBAR Foundation, we're talking about Swirls Labs, the DLT Science Foundation. And I know some people don't like to see this, just additional tokens hitting the market, but this is exactly how the treasury was supposed to be used, to continue to build out the ecosystem. We don't have to spend our treasury on paying miners that are just burning electricity or something along those lines. We can use our treasury to build out this ecosystem, build out the HBAR ecosystem, and so forth. Did you have any thoughts around the development fund being announced?
What's really important, just to hit home, is that all of this money, all of these tokens, they don't hit the market at once, right? You know, this is over the course of years and years and years, and every single one of those HBARs is given in a milestone fashion. So they have to hit a certain milestone, whether that's a certain amount of mainnet accounts or TPS or TVL, to receive that funding. It's not just free money. In that sense, there has to be some kind of value being driven from it. And if it isn't, they don't get the HBAR. So there should be a positive trend between both HBAR and being deployed and mainnet activity going up. And secondly, this is the second iteration. The foundation is now much more mature than it was originally. And, the strategies have developed, the teams have developed. We've seen what's worked and what hasn't. And they now know how to really make the most out of this, more so than they did at the start. So I think for me, this is even more bullish than it was when we first announced, however many years ago now. It's going to be very, very important to help, incentivize community development, community growth, institutions, enterprise, and so on. So I think whilst it's a big figure and people can panic because they think it's all going to hit the market at once, that really isn't the case. And there'll be a positive correlation between that and the mainnet. So I think it's a very exciting piece of news.
And it's not like they've already burned through all their HBAR from their initial allocations. They still have HBAR in their treasury from those initial allocations. All right, so the other thing that came out, I think it was over last weekend, was we've been hearing about this first principles with Manson Lehman for a long time, and they put out their first episode. In this first episode, they were focusing on the new 5 things that they want to solve. So they had 5 things that they initially identified that needed to be addressed in the crypto industry. They feel like they've solved those, so they're moving on to the next 5. To explain it, I grabbed a quick clip and they covered the first one, but of course, go watch the entire thing. But in the meantime, check out this quick clip.
We're going to start where this all started for us with Hedera Hash Graph. Back in 2017, we had a thesis. There were a list of points of friction in the market that we thought if we could address correctly, then we could help Hedera go mainstream in the market. And we believe that these points of friction were not just specific to Hedera, they were specific or the points of friction for the industry as a whole, and the industry needed to be able to address these in order for public ledgers to go mainstream. Those back then in 2017 were performance, security, stability of the public network, good governance, and then subsequently came along sustainability and being green. And in our case, I think we've checked all of those boxes with Hedera Hash Graph. Fantastic performance, best security in the market, fantastically stable platform today. Remember, back in 2017, what we saw were the layer ones all hard forking and creating chaos for anybody that was building a dApp on top. That's largely been addressed by the industry, but certainly by us. Good governance. We have the best governance in the market today, and as we've said from the beginning, we believe that ultimately governance perhaps is even more important than the technology. And then finally, sustainability and being green. And with Hashgraph, Hedera is the greenest of the platforms out there. So we thought it's time to reassess. What are the elements today of friction, the points of friction in the industry today that need to be addressed, and just update our list and then talk about those. So Lehman, what is the list?
So I would say if I'm going to update it today, I would say that the important things that this industry needs to be mainstream, to take over the world, which I do think is coming, it's going to make the whole world better, is we need regulatory clarity. We need to have regulations that make sense. We need to have safety. We need to have identity, deal with user identity. The whole user experience, we definitely need to fix. And then enterprise. Those are the things. I would say those are the 5 things that make it go mainstream. It covers both industry and users. It covers both technology and regulatory and ecosystem around it. I think those are maybe the 5 things I would say today, similar to the 5 things we said back in 2017. That's what I would say.
Right. Okay. So let's just deal with those individually. From a regulatory perspective, where do we stand and what's required?
Okay, so we need clarity, and a lot of the parts of the world are actually giving clarity on regulations. You can't have no regulation. That would be anarchy. That would be bad. But you also can't have bad regulations. That's also bad. And then it's even worse if you don't even know what you're supposed to do and you're trying to guess what the rules are. And so the most important thing is that we shouldn't have to guess what the rules are. They should be very clear. and they should be rules that protect users and encourage the industry to grow. That's what you need. I am optimistic. There are a lot of places in the world right now where that is happening, and in the United States, I think we are going to move in this direction as well. So I think that's what we need, and it is coming.
Yeah, so I would agree with that. I would say that there has been regulatory arbitrage going on now for some time. And it's interesting that the regulatory jurisdictions that are crypto-friendly have changed over time, and they continue to change. The U.S. obviously is still lagging behind, but Congress is involved, and hopefully we're on a path to getting some clarity here in the near term. So regulatory clarity, obviously, number one in terms of helping the industry to go mainstream.
I'm excited to see those first principles out now. The world needs more of Lehman as a thought leader, and Mance as well, of course. And we need as much content generated around those two as possible, I think, in particular Lehman. And of course, we know that Lehman's PhD was in AI. And so over the course of Davos, over WEF24, we saw what was, I think, one of the first major use cases at the intersection of AI between Hedera and AI. And that was with a company called Equity Lab in partnership with Hugging Face, who are one of the biggest AI community sort of development platforms in the world. I think they've got over 300K Twitter followers, a massive community on Reddit and within their own forums and so on. What is happening here is Hedera is being used as that trust layer for the data integrity of the data being used by the Equity Lab AI model. And so Brady Gentile put out a tweet saying that Climate GPT on Hugging Face is a 7 billion plus parameter model with 300 billion plus climate specific tokens trained and hosted entirely on renewable energy. And Hedera is utilized to log and publicly verify all the climate data used across Climate GPT. So this is not just, a small parametered AI model. This is a really, really big one for something that Hedera is focused on, laser focused on, like sustainability, and using Hedera as that trust layer of the internet that we know it is, that it always has been. And I think to know that we've got Lehman both in the AI world and the DLT world, I really hope that we see more and more of these AI use cases, because the data integrity of these AI models is absolutely essential moving forward. So very exciting first example of Hedera being used for the trust layer for AI model. And I'm really excited for that moving forward, that we see more of this.
Well, we know that Lehman is already a thought leader in the DLT space. I think he has the potential to be a thought leader in the AI space, and Hedera in general is a leader in regenerative finance. So this is an intersection of all those different things, and very exciting to see. All right, Zeb, we're going to take one of our hard left turns here. We are going to get into DeFi. And to start it off, I do want to say that Karate Combat has an event coming up next week. It's not one of their full events, but there is going to be up-only gaming. So if you have any tokens, make sure early next week, if you have them on a centralized exchange, if you have them in liquidity pools, you get those put into your Karate Combat app, or they're not going to be available for that up-only gaming, which is exactly where you're going to see your most returns in terms of the Karate token. But I've also gotten a lot of questions from the DeFi community around HSuite. And we got Ronan from their team. He's known as HBAR on X, but he has some really good information about exactly what they're doing. So let's check it out. As we've discussed in the past, HSuite is a completely new way of doing decentralized finance. And now that it's completely open to the public, we're going to dig in a bit. So Ronan, we've covered HSuite in the past, like I mentioned, but can you reiterate the benefits of HSuite and what makes it unique?
Well, HBAR Suite is very unique due to the nature of the underlying technology of the smart nodes. The benefits of such technology is that the nodes can be potentially infinitely scalable by providing whatever computational power needed, whether for simple or more complex logic. We would like to consider the smart nodes as the successor to smart contracts, because they are able to interact with any smart contract, any blockchain. They can be used on-chain, off-chain, and can be interconnected with any system connected to the internet. All of this, in fact, is fast, secure, and is ultimately scalable, utilizing the Hedera Layer 0 for consensus. It's also beneficial for the likes of enterprises and businesses which need scalability and cannot rely on smart contract limits of 10 megabytes. And you also have a throttle of 350 transactions per second. Whereas with smart nodes, the enterprises could hugely benefit from the scalability aspect with over 10,000 transactions per second of Hedera native speeds. Also, it can actually handle hundreds, maybe even thousands of megabytes as well.
That's fantastic. And what about the fees? Is it cheaper than traditional DEXs and smart contracts?
Yeah, because HBAR Suite utilizes the consensus service, which is far cheaper than smart contracts, we're able to utilize it in such a mechanism that it will actually lower the fees for any transactions.
All right, good to know. So what are the latest developments with the DEX and how can people get involved?
We recently opened up our LP injection program on our DEX. So that was when our DEX has been able to go live, and we've first initiated pools with our own tokens, and we've recently released the Karate Combat token. So up till now, everyone seems to be quite happy with our zero slippage DEX. There are a couple of things which we're looking to change focus onto, and that's improving our user interface and user experience. So we'll be able to spend more time in developing that and improving the user experience.
So right now, you mentioned you have HBAR, you have HSuite, you have HBAR, and you have Karate. Can we expect some additional tokens here in the near future?
We also have USDC as well. We do actually expect to release more tokens in the coming weeks. We're in talks with a number of the top tokens in Hedera. We'll probably be releasing them first. We will also be looking for other people to approach us or even go to our DAO proposals if they're looking to list on our DEX and get approval from our community DAO.
Well, we have a lot of good tokens out there and there's more being added every single day. So what's the future hold for HSuite?
The future is very bright for HSuite. We are experiencing a lot of organic growth in HBAR Suite. We've got some enterprises actually building on top of the smart nodes, so that'll actually add to the transaction on the HBAR Suite network as well. We've got some news that will hopefully be coming out this week, which we are excited about.
All right. Well, we'll keep that a secret for right now, but hopefully by the time this actually airs, we'll have that information and we'll be able to follow up with that. All right. So is there anything else you'd like to cover and pass on to the Hedera community?
Yeah, just if anyone is looking to integrate into the DLT and is looking for assistance in integration or is looking to list on our DEX or anything related to HBAR Suite, feel free to contact me on partnerships at hbarsuite.network, or you can reach out to me on Twitter at hbarrow, or you can also contact us through the Discord, or you can also contact us through the HSuite platform as well.
Well, Ronan, we really appreciate you stopping by. I can't wait to see what HSuite comes out with in the future, and we'll certainly have you back when we have any developments.
Thank you very much, Brandon. Thanks for always having us on.
And Zep, another thing that I've gotten a lot of questions, because we've seen when we check out DeFi Llama, we've seen that the Davinci Graph is starting to gain some TVL, and we've gotten plenty of questions around that. They aren't a traditional DEX with trading, but they do offer some DeFi services that may come in handy to token issuers mainly, but in some cases users as well. These services include a token creator with everything you would want, including creation, configuration, minting, burning, and more. And they have a token burner allowing you to burn tokens without an admin key. And we know how some people feel about fungible tokens with admin keys. They have a token vesting smart contract, which allows for gradual release of tokens to holders over a set period of time. This is helpful for projects that want to ensure a steady and controlled distribution of tokens to incentivize team members, advisors, and investors. Then we have their token locker smart contract, which is designed for securing and strategic locking of tokens, LP tokens, and NFTs to increase participant and market trust. I also thought their automatic decentralized token icon manager was pretty cool and has potential to eliminate manual management of token icons for dexes, wallets, and analytics sites. Pretty impressive stuff overall. And they also have additional launchpad and airdrop tools incoming. They haven't received a grant as of yet, so they haven't gone through that due diligence process, but their smart contracts are open source, and I would love to get feedback out there from any developers who can take a look at their smart contracts over there on GitHub. Finally, they have some token drops and sales coming up, so once you've done your own research and due diligence, follow Davinci Graph for more information on what they're up to.
Yeah, it's really cool to see what Davinci Graph have been doing. You know, there's a clear trend in the market of meme tokens, and Davinci Graph really has been sort of the centerpiece of these meme tokens on Hedera to also rise, but it also enables people to spin up their own, you know, utility token or whatever it might be for their own project. And so full disclosure, I actually have picked up 3 of their gold NFTs so that I can partake in their initial private offering in about 10 days, I think. So full disclosure there, but I think, yeah, I'm excited for what's to come for them, and I'll be following them closely.
Yep, I got some of their NFTs as well. And sticking with the HBAR economy, we had one of the biggest influencers in the space, Altcoin Daily, bring HBAR up. But they put HBAR in their top 10. I think, because I've seen them at a lot of the Karate Combat events, I think that they've gotten exposure to Hedera through that. And by exposure, I'm not necessarily talking about exposure to the HBAR token, which it sounds like they probably do, but I'm talking about to the network. They're getting to use it by using the Karate Combat app, and I think they're probably pretty impressed, which is why they're putting it there in their top 10. All right, so shifting gears again, I want to get into some developer focus here. We did have an announcement over the past week around Metamask Snap. Do you have any information on that?
Yeah, so Metamask Snap was launched in partnership with Consensus, so one of the major teams behind Ethereum, as well as Metamask, Swords Labs, Tomb Technologies, Hedera, and the Foundation. And this is opening the door for Hedera to sort of interact with over 30 million monthly active users that are part of the Metamask wallet itself. So I think this is the first step. We've now got a real snap, which is I think one of 40 official snaps, maybe less than that MetaMask are actively promoting on their websites. So it's got that official certification from MetaMask. It's being advertised by them on their website. So hopefully people will see it there. But in the HBAR Foundation blog, we also saw that this is the first step in what is a multi-step process, it seems, for this MetaMask snap to really get us involved in that Ethereum liquidity, that MetaMask ecosystem. So I'm sure there's a lot more to come. It says on the foundation that, you know, we don't have to wait too long for that. So I think it's an exciting step in the right direction for bridging new users over into Hedera.
And Zep, for anybody that's interested in this, tune in next week. Hedera's going to be hosting a Twitter space. I'm actually going to be helping out with hosting that and kind of emceeing a bit, but there's tons of great things that can come out of this. So tune in, figure out what's going on there. It's only going to expand our entire ecosystem. And Zep, sticking with the developer focus, there's been an awful lot of I think miscommunication, misunderstanding around the HCS 20 standard that Patches just launched. And I got a hold of Patches to give us the inside track on exactly what they have going on. So check it out. Patches, welcome back. It's been a while.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Of course. So now, to no one's surprise, now that you're able to focus full-time on Hedera, after onboarding with Swords Labs, you're making some pretty big waves, initially with your HCS 20 standard. To start off, what is the HCS 20 standard, and why did you create it?
Yeah, it's been a fun time getting on board with the Swords, that's for sure. I'm really enjoying that. It's honestly, I just love my job. Thinking about Hedera all the time, but now it's my entire focus, you know, so yeah, it's been a really great transition. Ironically, though, HCS 20, or just coincidentally, this was actually being built by HGraph Punks and Turtle Moon for years. So this was a thing that was actually going to come out no matter what happened, as we've been building a method of creating auditable points for our HGraph Punks NFT project. What is HCS 20? It is, at its simplest form, a suggestion of how to structure JSON on a Hedera consensus service topic ID to just understand the movement of things. I mean, it's really, really basic. It's not the marketing and the naming of it has made it very, very confusing, but it's just, hey, here's a very basic template of how to track the movement of stuff on Hedera.
Okay, that makes sense. Now, are there similar systems on other networks?
Yeah, so that's where it gets into the quagmire of confusion. We had a completely different standard that we were building for HGraph punks, and about 9 months ago, I got into the ordinals community. And, shout out to Hangry. He convinced me to go over there and see what's going on. He's a great artist in our community. And, when a multi-billion-dollar market crops up overnight in your industry, you should check it out. Even if you think the tech is silly, even if you think, there's a lot of reasons why you could look at it and go, well, that's not really secure. But you can't deny the market effects that ordinals is a thing. Billions of dollars happen daily. So when that was happening, I went over there and recognized how they created their community just completely, market effects first, technology later. And I learned a bunch, and it was really fun to see how this entire $1 billion market just came to fruition over tweets, And so BRC20 was the idea by Domo of how could the idea of a fungible token work on Bitcoin. And it had this basic protocol that was just JSON, and he tweeted it out. And then it became an entire $1 billion industry. That has been propagated, that idea of the BRC20 and the structure of that JSON. I'm not going to get into it, but on ordinals, there's just an insane amount of clunkiness when you have to sense and how to move it. But at its base core of what the JSON is pretty succinct and nice. So Litecoin, Dogecoin, name a network, they now have inscriptions, and they now use this standard along with, inscribing images onto the network. And it just propagated between just 30 plus networks. So what I did when I saw that is I took our protocol, which was really similar, and I just changed the attributes to match the standard that all of these other networks understand. And so on Bitcoin, when I buy a BRC20, I get a transaction. It costs me $1 to $40. It could take down to a minute if the mempool's not. If the mempool's up, it could be days. I have to pay different guys. It's all this fluctuating stuff. On Hedera, it's 1.5 to 3 seconds. It's always 1/100th of a penny, and it has all of the attributes of Hedera, but it's doing the same exact thing. It's just putting JSON, inscribing it onto the ledger. The difference is that Hedera is a hash graph, and it was literally built for this. That's what topic IDs are for, is to put JSON on there and read linear event structures. Maybe it's not JSON, but just data in linear events and fair ordered. So when we launched HCS20 and the public topic ID, we wanted to pair with what's happening on ordinals and all these other networks of hey, you have BRC20, LTC20, DRC20, now we have HCS20. And it's this onboarding mechanism of understanding where all these networks understand the same thing, but then you come here and do it and you're oh, okay, so we had 15 million mints in 6 days, which it took ordinals 9 months to get there because just, the first blockchain ever to a hash graph, right? It's just the difference of the technology. That's the marketing, that's the onboarding, that's the common thread that our industry has decided is the same on all these networks.
It seems like Hedera is built for purpose for this.
Right. So that's just, it's not the main point. And the public ID and putting 17 million transactions linearly on one thing, it's not, there's a lot of ways you could pick it apart. But the real utility here is use Hedera to track the movement of stuff. That's it. And we saw the Rooster cartels tracking inventory of their hot sauces using the HCS20 standard on a private topic ID with a submit key. Matt Smitty's changed Trust Enterprises API for ESG tracking to utilize the HCS20 protocol. And we have a working group. We're working on HCS21, 22, 23, all these other ideas that just change a couple of the attributes. But it's like as a musician, if you just have every option open to you, there's choice paralysis. If you get constraints, sometimes creativity explodes with constraints. And I think this is an example of, hey, if you had this standard, what could you do on Hedera? And the ideas are just exploding everywhere that I never could have imagined. That's the point.
Just like other things, as soon as you get people to come over and try it, then they see all the other services we have and the other things, and they can just go down the rabbit hole then and see all the tools we have to build whatever they want to build. Now, I was going to ask next, we have that impressive growth. You've talked about, how we've seen millions of transactions come through because of the HCS standard. And I wanted to ask you how it's being used now, but you covered that already. So what is the grand vision? How could this impact and improve the Hedera ecosystem and other industries as well?
Right. It's just utilize Hedera to do stuff. We created a open source Mac, Windows, Linux desktop application, Turtlemoon, and you can download it and you can create a new topic ID. You can put information on that topic ID. You can index that topic ID and read the information. So it's really about bringing, because to me, Hedera has been working so hard on building just the best fundamental technology that you can have in a decentralized ledger technology. And that's there, but it's that gap between the best and the best developer experience. And there's this communication mechanism where you have to be a low-level dev to understand these things to get in there. And it's daunting. If there's an open source desktop app, no tech knowledge needed, but you have a need for you to utilize this technology, it's just about lowering that barrier of entry, creating these easy access points. So you don't have to know enough to create your own JSON standard, pull it off the shelf. You don't have to know enough to create this application to index that JSON, pull it off the shelf. And now you're so much closer to utilizing this, to onboarding your app. Or if you're like what we did with Ordinals, we used a Hedera topic service ID to validate votes on Bitcoin. And so the token gated votes were on the topic ID, but we didn't have a standard. We built our own. So this is just, again, normalizing how to talk on this, showing how you can have an Ethereum-based game. Just track your points on Hedera. It's on a ledger that everyone can see. It's not a proprietary Web 2 thing anymore. Stay on your network. Hedera is here to build the trust layer of the internet. We're here to make all networks better. We're not the best network. We might be, but that's not the point. The point is we're here to make all networks better.
And there's been some misunderstanding and almost pushback around HCS 20. Is there anything you'd like to say to some of the people that might misunderstand exactly what you're doing here?
Yeah. This is not the Hedera token service. The Hedera token service is amazing. If you want to launch an NFT, if you want to launch a token, do it there. You don't have to trust me and my indexer if your balance is right. You have the entire architecture of this beautiful technology, Hedera, to tell you all of these things and make all of the information happen so quickly. The security, multi-sig, just like liquidity pools, it's built out. Huge, beautiful infrastructure. This is simply one step less. If I don't want a fungible token, like HGraph Punks, I want to reward my community. I don't want a security. I don't want them to take it to a liquidity pool. I don't want them to be able to move it. So I go to a private topic ID where only I can move the stuff. And when they do things in my application, I move their points and they can see it. They can see the audit log, but that's it. And that's it. This is Hedera token service is still here. We're just a layer under it if you don't want to make a token, but you still want some way to reward or track, again, ESG. It's hard to pin down, but that's it. Token service is great. This isn't replacing it.
I mean, this is exactly what Rob and I were talking about. We wanted to do some rewards for people around that ask questions for shark bites, and we wanted them to be soul bound. We didn't want them to end up on marketplaces and things like that. And I'm sure Rob is going to have some more thoughts around that. But Patches, as always, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for stopping by and explaining HCS 20.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
And Zep, with that, we'll go ahead and get into some network analysis. So over the past week, Hedera's throughput has been stepping up and is currently sitting at about 1,300 transactions per second, again putting Hedera at the top of the heap in terms of transaction volume. And they had a peak transaction volume of 4,300 TPS. And there must have been some new secret sauce in the January 9th mainnet upgrade, because we've seen time to consensus finality drop by 0.3 of a second to 3.2 seconds. And account creation has been fantastic, with over 60,000 accounts created just over the past 7 days. Moving down to fungible tokens, Wrapped HBAR and Sauce take the top 2 spots. The impressive numbers show the strength of Saucer Swap and DeFi in general. Next up, we have the meme coin Unlucky, followed by the Hedera native USDC. Then we have Energy Trade Token and Karate. And again, a reminder to transfer your Karate tokens into your app from DeFi or centralized exchanges for Kickback 1. That's going to be the event on January 26th. Then the top 10 is rounded out by Dovu, XSauce, and the 2 meme coins Zero and Hashkey. Looking at our NFTs, Coin and Gem takes the top spot. We have 4 Lithos Rant CPU NFTs in the top 10. Saucer Swap's Liquidity Provider NFT is next up. The mobile game Slime World NFT from Nada, a couple Karate Combat themed Karateka NFTs, and then the Times. And Zeb, with all of that out of the way, let's get into some DeFi. Taking a look at DeFi Llama, not including state or liquid staking, despite a bloodbath across many alts, TVL for the Hedera DeFi ecosystem has gone up a bit over the last week to over $76 million. Much of that has to do with a couple of our top HTS tokens, Sauce and Karate, making new all-time highs, both up about 9x off their lows. Saucer Swap holds the lion's share with $71 million of that, and HSwap is making up most of the balance, though Davinci Graph is peeking its head up with the better part of $1 million locked up. Taking a look at some of the staking rewards on Saucer Swap's popular trading pairs, HBAR X version 1 is at 5%, HBAR Sauce version 1 is at 20%, V2 70%, and HBAR USDC V1 is at 26%. Version 2 of that pair is at 95%. And finally, we have HBAR Karate, which is at 49%. Over on HeliSwap, HBAR Heli is at 121%, 22% on HBAR USDC, and 27% on HBAR Karate. Moving over to the HBAR and crypto markets, continuing with the dip following the ETF launch, Bitcoin is down 5% on the week, but flat on the day as we're starting to see a recovery this afternoon. HBAR is in line or even faring better than many of the alts, up about 0.5% on the day, but down over 6% on the week. As I'm recording, HBAR is at 7.6 cents after having tested support between 7 and 7.2 cents. We may see some resistance at 7.8 cents, but if we continue moving up, 8.4 to 8.5 cents will be the range to keep an eye on. All right, Zeb, that's pretty much all we have. Is there anything else you'd like to pass on?
I mean, clearly, Hedera was the name at Davos. You know, we've seen massive engagement on the Lehman and Brad posts that Zenobia put out. We saw Hatachi come out as the next governing council member. We saw the biggest supply chain finance platform in India come out on Hedera. We just saw so much going on, and all of this was being showcased to some of the biggest names in the world that were present at Davos. And I think, for me, it really does show how Hedera is leading in this sort of institutional side of Web3 adoption, and Davos is the perfect platform for them there. People have their views on Davos, but I really think that each year going back here is only going to put us in the room with more leading figures, both in Web3 and beyond, and that's going to give us the wind behind us that we really need to become that self-sustaining platform and sort of leader of institutional adoption for the next 100 years. So a great week all round. So much to go on there, and I'm sure we're only going to pick up more pace as we get into 2024.
And Davos, I mean, it's just the ultimate networking opportunity, and Hedera, as Max said, hit it out of the park. Now, next week, I have a lot going on. I have Demia that's coming on. I have Tune FM. We're going to do that Metamask Snap Twitter space on Wednesday, so check that one out. But I'm even more excited about just the lineup we have going out in the future. That stuff included. But we have SKUX that's going to be coming up pretty soon. I got contacted by Bobby Tinsley. We just highlighted what they were doing from a couple years ago, so we're going to get an update from that in the weeks to come. So I'm excited about that. I know we didn't have Rob Allen and Shark Bites this week, but we should get it next week. I know things are getting really busy right now, but we have a lot of exciting things going on. That's pretty much all we have. We'll see you next week.